Hi, and welcome to this live reading from Painter of the Damned, Painted Souls, Book 2 by Rob Samborn. And this is presented by Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. 1589 AD, Republic of Venice. The blade grazed Angelo Mascari's cheek, missed only by the turn of his head, followed by a lunge to the chest. The whip snake lashed a lightning-fast double tap. Angelo parried at the last second. His opponent pranced back on the platform and stared him down on guard, the tip of his sword trained on Angelo's throat. Swiping the face was forbidden in this demonstration, but neither the judge nor Angelo's master Fabri called it out. Despite the friendly nature of the bout, death seemed but moments away. The crowd clamored for more. Never had Angelo dueled before such an audience. Spectators filled Piazza San Marco to the edges of the Palazzo Ducale, the Basilica, and the arcades. He raised his rapier in defense. Exhalations skated across the polished steel in heated cloudbursts. Whip Snake's epithet suited him not only for his speed, but also for his physique. Lithe and reed-thin, taller and skinnier than Angelo, Rocco Benetti, the name his mother surely preferred, grinned, knowing the potentially lethal move was illegal. Angelo had thought the moniker pompous before the bout, but now found it accurate. Deadly accurate. Spectators shouted for Angelo's defeat, an outcome that seemed more inevitable with every passing second. 10 minutes prior, he was supremely confident it was by luck or defensive maneuvers that it hadn't ended already. He felt his tanned complexion reddening beneath the late spring Mediterranean sun. Beads of sweat rolled from his wavy dark locks, threatening to land in his eyes, but averting his focus for even half a second to wipe his brow would lead to an embarrassing loss, if not the end of his career, or worse. The snake shuffled his feet and tapped the platform with his rapier. Angelo jumped back, poised to protect himself. Laughter erupted from the piazza. The whip snake's body vacillated in a hypnotic rhythm, his face breaking into a sharp smirk. At 21, a single year older than Angelo, his opponent knew how to milk his moment, giving the audience the entertainment they desired. That he toyed with Angelo in front of the most eminent people in Venice, including the Doge, the leader of the Republic, fueled white heat within. He'd have words with this so-called reptile, assuming the man didn't perform another prohibited move and kill him. It seemed all of Venice watched. As a rising fencing star, he'd been selected to participate in an exhibition with the whipsnake, who hailed from a rival academy. Angelo was flattered he'd been chosen as the top bill from Master Fabri's school. A victory could lead to a sponsorship from Renzo Scalfini, which was crucial to lighten Angelo's burdens. He owed too many debts to too many people, all of whom watched the contest from the jubilant crowd. Yet, despite the promise of laurels and coin, Angelo only cared about impressing one spectator, Isabella Scalfini, Renzo's wife. He would not disappoint her. True to his name, the whipsnake swayed side to side in his trademark stance. He swiped the air with his rapier, as if severing the head of an invisible foe kneeling before him. Angelo stood stock still, following Master Fabri's instruction. Patience for the right moment is a thing of beauty, he'd say. Beauty. Isabella. Though Angelo couldn't see her, he felt her eyes removing his doublet, shirt, and pantaloons as she'd done less than 24 hours prior. The warmth from her lips remained on his inner thigh. The taste of her body lingered on his tongue. He craved more. The whipsnake struck as if sensing his opponent's internal distraction. Angelo parried and stumbled backward, nearly slipping off the platform. Spectators exploded with cheers. Even in a friendly bout with no purse, they'd hungered for blood. Recovering his footing, Angelo shook his head and forced his brain to concentrate. How to beat a snake, particularly such a quick one. A child of an island city, he had little experience with the creatures. A friend once captured a serpent on the mainland. When the boy removed it from the box, he'd held it by the neck. But going for the whipsnake's neck was an illegal move. Then again, the judge said nothing upon his opponent's cheek strike. Surprise made a snake more lethal, but snakes could be trampled, especially if surprised. Without another thought, Angelo charged. He hacked relentlessly, startling the whipsnake. Metal struck metal, clanging as Angelo's opponent parried and retreated down the platform. And then Angelo took a risk. He aimed for Benetti's neck, but without intent to strike. As anticipated, Benetti prostrate for defense. Switching to a more elegant form, Angelo flicked his wrist and struck Bonetti's breastplate. The whipsnake's jaw popped open, stunned. Angelo, too, was momentarily dazed by his victory. When realization set in, he launched his fists into the air with a triumphant grunt and paraded the length of the platform to face the spectators on both sides. Though not one to gloat, he reveled in the adoration from a crowd that longed for his death moments earlier. The whole of the festival applauded as he stepped off the platform. The prettiest girls in Venice rushed over, congratulating him and clasping his muscles. Maidens batted their eyelashes and shielded their blushes with folding fans. He enjoyed the attention, but scanned for his beloved in the massive crowd. Every Venetian agreed this year's Festa della Senza had been the most glorious in memory. In the symbolic ceremony of Venice's marriage to the sea, Doge Cogna had lobbed a golden ring into the Venetian lagoon as 1,000 boats donned with flags of La Serenissimi's coat of arms entered the Grand Canal. A parade of red and yellow flags bearing St. Mark's winged lion cemented the Serene Republic's position as the greatest naval power in the world. Partly a celebration of the successful conversion of the Rialto Bridge from wood to stone, each vessel passed beneath the structure to cheers. Festivities had continued that afternoon, and feast for the senses as the Duke graced his citizens with the commencement of a week-long jubilee in Piazza San Marco, showcasing song, dance, and theater, as well as feats of strength, dexterity, and gallantry on the horse. The celebration culminated with the main event, prowess of the blade. A slap to the back of his head cut Angelo's search short. He turned to find Master Fabri staring down at him, his crimson and gold flat cap angled to the side. The fencing legend, with his curly gray hair and long mustache, was half a head taller than Angelo. His perfect posture made him seem like Mars himself, and as eternally angry. "I didn't teach you to hack away like a Turkish street rat," Fabri said. "Apologies, Master Fabri, but you embarrassed me in plain view of the entire city. They'll think I instruct my students to cower in fear, then flail wildly without a strategy or plan." "But, Master, that was my strategy." Fabri narrowed one eye and raised the brow over his other. "Stakes can only be defeated at the neck, or crushed altogether." Fabri relaxed his face and offered the slightest of smiles. "Rocco Bonetti is not a real snake." "No, but the move brought a victory to your illustrious school." If Master Fabri meant to offer his agreement or compliment, Angelo would never know, for Fabri received a pat on the back. "Well done, Fabri," said the short, blond man with a long goatee. "You performed with purpose." He shook hands with Fabri, who nodded his thanks. Angelo assumed the stranger was Nicoletto Giganti, master of the rival school, for beside him, with his head hung low, stood Angelo's recently deposed opponent. Giganti's fitted turquoise velvet waistcoat matched his beret adorned with an ostrich plume, which Angelo had thought fell out of fashion some years prior. "We had wondered what strategy you'd use to best the best. It was the whipsnake's first defeat." Giganti extended his hand. "Well played indeed, Mascari." "Grazie, signore," Angelo replied, giving the man a vigorous handshake. Fabri tipped his hat to Giganti before Giganti nudged Rocco. "Don't stand there like you're still in the falcon's talons. Lose honorably." "You did well, Mascari," the whipsnake said. "This time I look forward to our next bout." With a sullen bow, he turned on his heel and headed into the crowd. "Forgive me," Giganti said. "I hadn't had to train the cur to lose with grace. Now, Angelo, I understand you seek a sponsor. I could introduce you to—" Fabri held up his hand. "I shall ask favor of sponsors when he's ready." The men exchanged words, but Angelo scarcely heard. Despite the conversation about his future, he resumed scanning the pedestrians meandering amongst street performers and food vendors. He searched for her in eager anticipation, like a young boy expecting a panettone on Christmas morn. It wasn't long before he spotted his true love, Isabella Scalfini, the young wife of Renzo Scalfini, controlling partner of the largest timber collegiantia in the Republic. She stood beneath the column of San Tardero, fanning herself, laughing with a friend. Isabella wore an intimately familiar sky blue dress that accentuated her auburn hair and dark eyes. What her blonde friend wore, he noticed not. "I believe I have found my sponsor," Angelo said. "Please excuse me, signore." After a bow to both men, Angelo continued his mission. A costumed marching band interrupted his path. Their drumming matched the excited beat of his heart. He allowed them to pass, then in rhythm to the music, he strolled over to Isabella. My ladies, he said to the women, taking a rare opportunity to converse with the 18-year-old beauty in flagrant view for all to see. A most delightful afternoon for the grandest festa to be held in our most serene city. Unable to look away, Angelo locked out his gaze with Isabella's. Her almond-shaped eyes smiled upon seeing him. Her presence ensnared him, and he savored every moment of it. Congratulations on your victory. Signor Mascari, is it not? She asked, her olive skin brightening. The sweetness of her voice always sparked memories of delicacies Angelo's mother baked. Combined with the floral and cinnamon aroma emanating from Isabella's embroidered white leather gloves, his mouth watered. Grazie, Signora, he replied. We met at Signor Balbi's Christmas ball. Do you not remember? Clearly I do, otherwise I wouldn't have remembered your name. Perhaps you are the one who was forgotten. I could never forget you, Signora Scalfini. I meant you have forgotten your manners, or are you generally in the custom of approaching noble ladies without our husbands present, or without so much as a gentleman by your side? Isabella widened her eyes as they landed on Angelo's neck. His hand instinctively went to the target of her gaze, the silver crucifix she'd given him some weeks prior. He hadn't removed it since. It must have slipped out during the duel. He tucked it back into his shirt. Signora, Angelo started. Go easy on the rascal, Signora Scalfini, a voice from behind them said. The three turned to find two men approaching. Angelo was already acquainted with I Fratelli Uccello, the Bird brothers. With every meeting, more and more he wished their paths had never crossed. Though, had they not, he never would have met Isabella. The flaxen-haired Vito Uccello stood up to them. His sharp, eagle-like features and broad posture always posed a threatening presence. His smaller brother, Ivan, followed a step behind. With raven hair and a tight face, the man scowled at everything he saw. Beady eyes darted over Angelo as if stalking a mouse. Without a word, he knew what the Bird brothers wanted, the black book they'd tasked Angelo to retrieve from Renzo and Isabella's bedroom. After 6 months, he was no closer. Well, he was closer, but hadn't the desire to complete the task. I'm sure Angelo has strong reason for approaching unaccompanied ladies, and we can vouch for him, Vito continued. Indeed, Angelo said. I was, in fact, looking for Signora Scalfini's husband. I believe he's speaking with the Minister of Finance, Isabella replied. Ah, see? Ivan said to Isabella's friend. No cause for concern. Angelo stole a look at Isabella. She observed him a second longer than appropriate. That she was putting on a show prompted an audible sigh of relief. Scenes of the previous day's activities reflected in her eyes, causing a hardness in his pantaloons he needed to quell with less arousing thoughts. Vito took a long gulp from his wooden mug and burped. A rank cloud of regurgitated anchovies, garlic, and red wine wafted through the air. The two wavered from inebriation as Ivan took a swig from a bottle, then refilled his brother's mug. The brothers cured his potential embarrassment. On such a day, Vito said, there is cause for celebration and gaiety, Ivan offered. He brushed a lock of hair off the shoulder of Isabella's friend. Guard yourself, sir, she said, shooing his hand away. Ivan scowled, his tightened eyes seeming to bore into her skull. She sidestepped closer to Isabella. Come now, ladies, Vito said. It's a beautiful day, and a day for beauty and love, community and sharing. Perhaps a day for sharing love. Vito massaged Isabella's shoulder. She tensed and looked at Angelo. Fury sizzled within him. Vito surely meant to provoke a reaction. Angelo would be a fool to counter. Perhaps you can both join us at the masquerade tonight. Vito's hand slithered down Isabella's arm to her waist. Angelo gripped the hilt of his rapier with such hatred that his knuckles turned ashen white. Remove your hand from Lady Scalfini, he said, lest you wish to lose it. Mind your place, Mascari. Vito kept his palm on Isabella. Mind yours, sir, Isabella said, squirming out of his hold. What did you say, woman? Ah, there's my husband, she said, pointing to a man in his early 40s, with a pockmarked face and a frame twice the size of Angelo's. He limped toward them, tucking a large, thick envelope into his jerkin. He's your friend, is he not? Indeed, Vito said. He and Ivan stepped back from the ladies. Vito's words were the last of the conversation Angelo heard. The thought of yet another man attempting to possess Isabella churned his stomach. He would abandon his career. He'd abandon everything if it meant he and his love could live in peace. As the group turned toward Isabella's advancing husband, Angela stole off into the crowd, nearly barreling over a boy wearing a red gondolier's hat with a white feather.